let's do the debate recap first.
Just 34 days to go until Election Day. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Ohio Senator J.D. Vance taking the stage at the sole vice presidential debate hosted by CBS. With a
right off the jump, I have a lot of thoughts on the debate, and it was soul-sucking. It was shitty. I hated it. I hated it for a bunch of different reasons. Number one, it ended up presenting J.D. Vance like a normal human being, which is really fucked up. It made J.D. Vance look moderate. J.D. Vance came on that stage with one goal and one goal only. It wasn't even to like defend Trump that much. Obviously, he still has to do that because, like, you know, he has an audience of one. But his major goal tonight was, or last night, was to basically present himself as like a moderate person, a solid communicator that has a liberal veneer on some very illiberal and very, very fascistic right-wing ideologies. And he did a good job at that. I hate to fucking recognize that. I think that is devastating. I think that is a bad thing. But I do think he did a pretty solid fucking job. And his approval rating post-debate went up as a consequence of that. It was also very frustrating because Tim Walz is a normal guy. He is not this like machine politician overall. Because of that, he's kind of weak when it comes to defending certain machine politician requirements. And the debate starting off with, would you allow Israel to fucking first strike Iran, definitely knocked the wind out of his sails. It did. It started off real rough because I don't think, like, I'm not being parasocial or anything. Like, do I think that Tim Walz is like someone who is invested in the continuation of the Israeli genocide of the Palestinian population? Yes. Okay. I do. I don't think he cares. But I also personally think that his heart is not in it in the same way that like other politicians may be. He is not necessarily the guy who is all that invested. And you saw it. You saw it because there were issues that he was genuinely invested in. And he popped off when talking about it. So the first half definitely went to J.D. Vance on that front. A lot of these issues were issues that machine politicians are equipped to talk about. J.D. Vance is a very cunning, wily little rat in a human suit, okay? He's a lizard person in a human suit. He can fucking communicate with podcasters about incel groiper shit, but he can also shift his, he can shift his language to an audience that is predominantly liberal. He can moderate himself. That's just the truth. He is like Pete Buttigieg. Overall, I was frustrated with the way in which Tim Walz announced himself to the most prominent, to the largest possible platform he could have announced himself to. This is the biggest audience he's going to be in front of, okay? I wished that he would have been able to communicate his desires and communicate his opinions in the same exact ways that he was able to do so when talking about lowering fucking pharma prices, lowering fucking housing costs. Like, you saw how passionate he would get on issues that he cares about. Healthcare is another one. He's very good on those issues. I hated how much they agreed, though, because Tim Walz is like a normal guy, okay? He's a yokel. That is his appeal. And as a yokel, normal guy, and not like a real politician in the way that you understand it, he's not going to come across as solid on American foreign policy, and he definitely did not come across as solid on immigration. I would say that the reason for why this was a 50-50 deadlock in most of the polls that came out afterwards, with some independents favoring Tim Walz over J.D. Vance, is because of the platform that these two parties represent. Not on immigration specifically, but on how hard J.D. Vance goes on immigration, how hard the right-wing platform goes on immigration, and how normal Tim Walz can present himself to a broader audience in comparison to J.D. Vance, who is very good at, masquerading as like a moderate if he wants to, but he still has this like nervous energy to him that I think a lot of people can see through and are otherwise disgusted by.
Events still unfolding and uncertainty in the Middle East, the two sparred over who offers stronger leadership at this critical moment.
Our allies understand that Donald Trump is fickle. He will go to whoever has the most flattery or where it makes sense to him. Steady leadership like you witnessed today, like you witnessed in April. Both Iranian attacks were repelled. Our coalition is strong, and we need the steady leadership that Kamala Harris is providing.
Governor Walz can criticize Donald Trump's tweets, but effective, smart diplomacy and peace through strength is how you bring stability back to a very broken world. Donald Trump has already done it once before.
In a presidential campaign that has been anything but civil, this was a strikingly civil and substantive debate.
Well, I've enjoyed tonight's debate. And I think
the media loves this shit. The media loves like, oh, look at how civil they were. And it was so substantive. They talked about policies. That only helps JD Vance. Straight up. That does not help the ticket for Kamala Harris at all. A substantive civil debate is not helping Tim Walz. Make no mistake. It only makes JD Vance look like a fucking moderate. That's why I'm so frustrated with the fucking debate and the outcome of the debate. Right off the jump, the first question was whether either vice president would allow Israel to first strike Iran. We are a ridiculous nation, okay? That was my initial assessment. Israel is doing South Africa speed runs right now, okay? Like opening up new fronts. They're in apartheid on a good day. They're doing genocide on a bad day every day. And on top of that, they're like busy opening up multiple fronts. And the first question is like, America's not reining Israel in at all. The media analysis is, will you let Israel unfold? Will you let Israel create a nuclear holocaust? That's crazy. That's a crazy way to interpret the events that are unfolding in front of our eyes. And the worst aspect of it early on, and this is like something I locked into pretty quickly, was that JD Vance also did a much better job than Trump when it comes to lying about bringing end to global conflict. I often talk about 2016 era Trump, how he was able to successfully present himself as a peaceful dove, right, against Hillary Clinton's warmongering tendencies. 2024 Trump, on the other hand, hasn't done that well. He has definitely lost his step a little bit. JD Vance, on the other hand, in my opinion, did a better job of communicating not just on this front, but on a lot of the key Republican conversations. And the media reception on that, with the exception of January 6th, was showcasing exactly what I'm saying. JD Vance said 1 million undocumented immigrants have committed some kind of crime on U.S. soil as he walks through how he'd deport 25 million migrants. It was very frustrating. Obviously, he was able to once again repeat his positions on immigrants without coming across as insane as Donald Trump. Okay, that's another area where like JD Vance, in my opinion, did a more professional, like he was able to add a professional veneer to the deeply right-wing, deeply fascist, white nativist immigration, anti-immigrant sentiments. The policies are weird, but he wasn't showcasing it in a fucking weird way. He didn't communicate it in a way where, like, I think the average onlooker would look at that and go, dude, what the fuck? Like, this guy's out of his mind. Part of the reason why JD Vance was able to successfully communicate this shit is because Democrats don't address some of the very basic lies that the Republican Party tells on a regular basis. They're locked in on a right-wing border attitude. They're just completely committed to it. And it's very, very frustrating. It's very frustrating to see that. This is another thing that I've been yelling about for months. For months and months, I have been screaming since October 4 or October 5, I think, before October 7, when Joe Biden came out and unveiled his right-wing border bill, that he got like an incredibly conservative Republican senator from Oklahoma to write, that he was committed to. Ever since the Democrats rolled out their anti-immigrant proposals, I've been yelling about how you cannot outflank the Republicans on this issue. I'm losing my mind. The Dems never mentioned that it's U.S. citizens trafficking the drugs across the border. It's literally 80% of the drug apprehensions. And yet that never gets brought up. Never. I don't think this is incompetence. I don't think this is like negligence. I think it is because the Democrats have also decided they are going to be right-wing on the border going forward forever. Like, I think that they're just locked in on it. I think it's on purpose. Tim Walz is defending a right-wing border bill that literally has funding for Trump's border wall in it. I hate this fucking party so much. They're in agreement on the made-up issue that migrants constitute a national security threat. Dems just want to be lame about the optics. Yeah, once again, Democrats find themselves in the realm of bad politics and bad policy. It's bad politics because you can never outflank the right on anti-immigrant sentiment, because this sentiment is not coming from a logical place. It's coming from pure racism. That's it. It's pure white supremacist attitudes, right? So you can't really outflank them by being like, well, hold on now. We got to logically do this situation. It's like, it's illogical. It's illogical because immigrants do not constitute a national security threat. They are literally not a burden, but a boon on American economy. And also beyond that, they literally do less crime. They do less crime per capita than fucking natural-born U.S. citizens. It's so stupid. Liberals posting like 2016 Republicans. Yeah. At the border with swagger. Sick, man. Sick. It's very, very, very frustrating to see this shit. And here it is. And you saw that anyway. You saw that distinction for Tim Walz's own performance when he was talking about kitchen table issues like lowering the cost of medication or housing. He fucking cracked on that. Okay. He was popping off on that. JD Vance is saying he got groomed into thinking Trump was Hitler as a 35-year-old Yale graduate man. That's one of my favorite moments of JD Vance where he's like, I actually also thought Trump was Hitler because the media duped me. I'm stupid. And I no longer think that anymore. You're an idiot. But yeah, it was a tactical L, in my opinion, in my estimation, where Tim Walz did not hammer JD Vance at all. And obviously a lot of dummies loved that, the civility, right? They loved how civil the conversation was. That's not good. That means you love the conversation between JD Vance and Tim Walz. A much better alternative here would at the very least be daggering JD Vance a couple times and separating himself from the moderate position that he was actually presenting himself as on the largest stage that he's been on so far. Tim Walz is already well liked. JD Vance is not. JD Vance basically did a fantastic job of advocating for JD Vance.